Hello, I'm Doug, and this is the Taste and Sensibility channel, and we are continuing our stinky cheese journey with today's cheese from France. Although it's a German name, it's called Munster, like Herman Munster. There's also a US cheese called Munster, M-U-E-N-S-T-E-R, which is a mild yellow nondescript cheese for the most part it gets sliced and put on sandwiches. And this is not that. So I bought this recently in New York City. It's a cheese shop called Cheese Plate Park Slope in Brooklyn. And I recognized it right away and said, hey, I need that for my tasting and collection. So I've been looking forward to this one. But on the stinky side, I can smell this right through the plastic. This is coming up at me now that it's at room temperature, and I'm having trouble getting through the plastic here. Sell by A3, 1/4 of a pound at $28 a pound. So $7 worth here, they say. And if I can eat it, I'll probably agree. But they've already got my money. So there's a nice little fern design. Maybe it's really a fern and not just a design. People like to mark their cheeses a certain way or make them stand out, make them unique. So this is a very moist looking wet orange rind. It's kind of got a texture, rose, ribs. So, yes, I'm getting some aroma here. It's not all body odor. There's other things in there. So, I believe that is an actual fern. Good. So it looks too perfect and plasticky to be a real fern, or it would have more variations. Although the bottom side doesn't look so perfect, but it's too uniform. I'm thinking it's a plastic fern. I'll check it out after the video and let you know what it's really made of and put it in the description. So what we have is a pretty stinky cheese. It's got the orange rind, which is telling us about the Brevibacterium linens. And this is a whole different animal than that American Munster I mentioned before. It is here in Liz Thorpe's book, the Book of Cheese, under Munster or Munster Jerome PDO. Cow, it says from France, so it's that part of France called Alsace-Lorraine, which goes back and forth between Germany and France. So just to give her brief tasting notes on the aroma, cow, unpasteurized, aroma, baby diapers, texture, plump, smooth, glossy, flavor, salty, yeasty, and vegetal. So that's what we're in for here. But before I start slicing and smelling up the place, I want to get you to like this video. Leave comments and questions down below, share it with friends, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell to get notified when the new videos come out. So I'm getting an aroma here that is partly funky and BO and partly something like other cheeses sometimes have. I can tell this is very soft. I'm going to open up a nice big face and just work with a little part of it. It's very soft texture. It's like cold butter right now, and it's getting softer. So I guess I'll just take a little piece and see what it smells like and tastes like before I start putting it on things. So, French Munster from a German speaking part of France, maybe. Not too smelly. Creamy. It's not real smooth. It's It's got a texture to it. It's not just, ew, ew. Oh, that rind is strong. I think the rind's got the strong stuff in the main. The bulk of it in the center is pretty pleasant and mild. It's about as soft as cold butter. I don't think it's going to soften up much more if the temperature goes up another 3 or 5 degrees here to get to room temperature. So it's interesting. It's salty, savory. Yeah, that's not getting any sweetness from dairy notes. It's not like a sweet cream, a sweet butter, sweet milk. I think the dairy notes have been covered over for the most part by the funkiness of the cheese and how it's been handled and washed. So, yeah, I've got a few pieces cut, and I'll just take a rindless piece and put it on this multi-grain cracker with no wheat. It's good. It's cheesy. Wasn't anything funky about it from that interior piece. Seemed fine. Very tasty. Got just a little bit of edginess. So something is starting to change or happen or get more interesting with the cheese, but it really hadn't gone very far in the interior. So now I got a piece with rind on it. I'm putting on a flatbread. So I gotta get more of those flavors from the rinds. So let's give this a try. And the cracker's very plain, and didn't make the cheese seem saltier or more flavorful. It's the same kind of flavors I got before. Salty and savory, and no real dairy notes are remaining, I don't think. So I'll do the rindless, well, there's one little speck of rind, on a low salt Triscuit. See how that works. So the shreds of wheat in the cracker created a real interesting texture with the cheese. It kind of flowed and melted and coated them. So, I'm kind of surprised I got a texture note out of all that. I guess the next thing I will try will just be a rice cracker with a rindy part of the cheese. So let's see how this goes. Very mild, sweet cracker, and the funkiest part of the cheese we've had so far. Yep, flavors of those cheese were quite a bit stronger than the cracker flavors. This is just a mild rice. Very plain, very dull for the most part. So yeah, I like the cheese. It's not too strong. It's not overwhelming me with anything. And half the population would not find it too offensive, I don't think. So, I only have a couple more crackers I can try before I move on to the pairings over here. Which look like a selection of dried fruits, nuts, fresh fruits, and some honey. So yeah, the cheese is sticking to the slate pretty well. We do slightly bigger pieces, get more of that cheese flavor. What haven't I used yet? I will do this rye cracker and put on a good sized piece. It's got some rind on the bottom. So, sourdough rye cracker and this Alsace Munster. Different savory notes came out with the rye cracker. There is kind of a sour lactic note somewhere in the cheese. And I did get more cheesy, buttery things, reminiscent of a sharp cheddar, or I'm not sure what kind of other cheese I might use as a descriptor for that. My last cracker here is kind of a club cracker, and I'm just gonna put this nice slab of cheese on. I guess I'll just go ahead and use up that little bit of rind that was on the slate and give this a try. So cracker is a little buttery in flavor, and the cheese is a little buttery in texture. But the flavors of the cheese are all much more funky than butter. And the rind dominated. So it's not a strong flavor of cheese. But if you don't like this kind, I think some people are going to object to it just because of the character of the flavor. Not necessarily the intensity. If you have any of that flavor or aroma, it might be too much. So, what am I going to try here? I've got some fresh mango, so we'll try to grab a piece. It's not too slippery. They're all too slippery. And put it, the triangles are going the wrong way. I'm going to try this as a pairing, fresh mango and the Munster. Beautiful. They went together. It's a contrasting pair, really. And the mango went away a little faster than the cheese did. So that's a slight mismatch. It's a little firmer cheese than... Maybe you could warm it up a few more degrees. Another 5 degrees, maybe be a couple degrees warmer than room temperature and get it to melt a little faster in your mouth. But flavors went together well as a contrasting pair, and the survival in the mouth was a little bit different, with the cheese lasting quite a bit longer than the mango, which was delicious, sweet, fruity. Everything the cheese wasn't. Not salty. Whereas real interesting, funky, and salty flavors came out of that cheese. So I want to try the same sort of thing with, if I can pick it up, with fresh raspberries. I don't know if one's enough. Yeah, they're pretty fruity, juicy, and acidic, so I think it will... I think it'll last longer than the mango did, so let's give this a try. Great contrast, great combination. Fruity, juicy, non-salty. Things from the raspberry, and the cheese was just the opposite in every in every parameter. So I'm liking this. Let me get some slightly smaller pieces here. And I want to try to get a piece of pecan, the medium-sized piece of cheese here. It's got pecan and Munster. The pecan sort of faded away, had a sweetness, had a nuttiness, but the flavors and texture of the cheese were stronger. Buttery, funky, and the pecan was hidden a little bit in every kind of way you were trying to detect it, so not too successful, but one because it was a big clash. It just didn't stand up to the flavor of the cheese. Now, next thing I'm doing, I'm going to dip a little piece of the cheese into a little dish of honey. This is a blueberry blossom honey I picked up in New York City with an origin in New Jersey. So there's a little dip. Just got maybe a third or a fourth of the cheese covered with the honey, and now we're going to taste. That's a win. And the honey flavor hangs around, stays around, as long as you have the cheese. So neither part went away too early. So that's really good. That's really good. So I got some dried cherries, which usually work out well, and a very small piece of cheese. So let's see how this goes. Okay, that's nice. I was just focused on chewing up the cherries. They're tough, slightly leathery. And the cheese was just incidentally in the way and getting meshed up and mixed up, releasing flavors. And they were a great contrast all the way through. So slightly sour cherries, a little bit sweetened, tart, fruity, but not juicy. And that was a good thing to pair with the cheese. So this was quite the pleasant cheese in spite of some of the maybe unpleasant characteristics. So I had a good time with it. I liked it. I agree with Liz about the characteristics, and baby diapers is too strong of a description for the aroma, but the flavors were pretty good. So I think that will wrap up this episode of general randomness in this washed-rind category that I'm calling stinky cheeses. So next time we'll have a stinky one from the US. So come back for that, and cheers.